Hello everyone, welcome to our next screencast for phonics. Today we're talking about phonemic awareness and alphabet knowledge and how those two ideas or concepts play into how we think about phonics for children and also how we teach phonics to children. An overview of the screencast today, we're going to talk about the alphabetic principle first and discuss how letter names and the shapes of letters help children to be able to read words. Then we're looking at phonemic awareness and its relationship to alphabet knowledge. We will explain, define, and compare these ideas, and then we'll talk about when we're writing phonemes, how we represent phonemes, and I'll talk to you during this screencast about what exactly a phoneme is. So what is the alphabetic principle? In very simple terms, the alphabetic principle is simply the recognition that written letters, so the symbols, either a letter by itself or a letter in combination with another letter like th saying th, represents the sounds of spoken language. So this is where children actually connect the phonics idea that a sound that we say out loud can be represented by this symbol, this alphabet letter on the page. So there's a correlation that print has meaning. That's called the alphabetic principle, the principle that the alphabet itself stands for or represents spoken language. That is a very quick summary and overview. So what I want you to do to get a better understanding of the alphabetic principle is to go to this Reading Rockets guide and read the text in this article. Again, Reading Rockets, like we've been saying in class, is a really nice easy way to understand concepts in phonics instruction. And it will also talk to you about some of the activities you can do for children to help them with the alphabetic principle. So I've just given you a definition. What you're going to do at this website and after you read this article is think about how you can help children develop their understanding of the sound symbol relationship and also why it's important to do that for early readers. All right, if you are looking at this screen, you should have already read the Reading Rockets article on the alphabetic principle. Again, I gave you a quick overview, but if you go to the Reading Rockets article, you'll hear and see why it's important for the alphabetic principle to be studied and for children to think about the alphabet and what it represents and how the sounds and symbols correspond. And also, it gave you a couple of ideas for how you can teach the alphabet to children, the letter names and the shapes of the letters, so that children can begin to make the correlation between that symbol and eventually a sound, which is, as we know, phonics. I want you to respond in your own words to the prompt below as your first activity in response to the alphabetic principle article. I want you to go to Moodle Day 3 and respond to this prompt. The alphabetic principle begins with automatic recognition of the names and shapes of letters. That has to come first in the alphabetic principle. A child has to know that a letter is shaped a certain way and that it has a name. After they figure that out, children can begin to assign sounds to the letters themselves. So we have to start with alphabet knowledge in order to get this understanding of the connection between the symbol and the sound. In order to build a child's automatic recognition, quick recognition of the names and shapes of letters, we need to provide them with repeated exposure. So over and over, children need to see, experience, talk about, name, look at, manipulate, all of those things, letters. With this in mind, what are two activities? You can go back to the Reading Rockets website, or you can look on Pinterest or any other site, Teachers Pay Teachers, to look at two activities children could engage in to build their automatic recognition of the names and shapes of letters. Again, we need the names and shapes of letters for the kids in order for them to then make the jump that shape and that letter name corresponds to a sound that they speak. That's the alphabetic principle, that's phonics. After you describe these activities, and if it's a website, give me the website, I want you to also talk about how would each activity increase the children's automatic recognition. So you've given the activity, now defend it. Why would it increase automatic recognition of the alphabet? You can pause the screencast, go and do that, and when you come back, we'll move on. All right, you've looked at alphabetic principle. You've thought about the names and shapes of letters and how we can help children have automatic recognition of the names and shapes of letters. Now we're looking at sounds. Okay, so we've looked at alphabet and symbols. Now we're going to think about just sounds, and we're not going to attach any sort of letter to those sounds. This is the idea of phonemic awareness, and this can be a little bit tricky when you initially think about it or hear it. Phonemic awareness and phonics go together, but the main difference between the idea of phonics and when we teach phonemic awareness is that phonemic awareness focuses children only on sounds, okay? It's breaking apart spoken, not written, spoken words into individual parts, individual phonemes. A phoneme is a sound, okay? A phoneme is a sound. It can break it into syllables, the sounds in syllables, but not in its written form, only in its spoken form. Phonemic awareness is only concerned with sounds. This is different than phonics because phonics links sounds to a letter. Another word for a letter is a grapheme, all right? So in phonics, we talk about the relationship between letters or graphemes and their sounds. Phonemic awareness just deals with sounds. So if you're ever doing a phonemic awareness lesson, you're not writing letters. You're not writing letters anywhere. You are using pictures or you are simply speaking words, but you are not mixing the sounds and the letters together. Phonemic awareness only deals with sounds. There's a really strong correlation between phonemic awareness, a child's understanding of sounds, how to break apart words, how to put words back together, how to rhyme. All of that is phonemic awareness. And there's a really strong correlation between that and a child successfully learning to read really complex text. This is critical for all children, including up through the middle grades. So when we think about our older readers, third graders, fourth graders, it's really critical to know that even a child who is an older child working on phonics may have to go back and work on phonemic awareness. Now there are two ways I want to show you a little bit more clearly what I mean by phonemic awareness. The first is I'm going to pull up this chart. We're going to look at this in class as well, but I want you to see what I mean when I say a phonemic awareness activity will not use letters. So if I did this activity with my students, I might say, look, I have a picture of a dog here on the screen. Can anyone think of a word that rhymes with dog? Yeah, frog, log. Now I'm using rhyming, but I'm not writing anything down. I'm just using pictures. Same thing for owl. I could do the same thing for cow. All right, so I want to rhyme words out loud, just with their sounds, so children are hearing the similarities between the words, not writing them down, not looking at the associated symbols, the letters, the graphemes. We don't want that. We just want phonemes in phonemic awareness. We just want sounds. Here's another example. If I want to work with children on counting sounds in words, I could say, okay, we're going to look at the word or think about the word cat. Everybody say cat with me. Now let's break apart the word cat into three sounds. Or into sounds. You wouldn't say three. You would just say into its phonemes, into its sounds. So we would say k, a, t, cat. Now I did not write a letter. I did not name a letter. I didn't say anything about graphemes. I'm only working with phonemes or sounds. So that's the critical piece in phonemic awareness. You don't introduce letters or graphemes. You don't say this sound goes with this letter. You only worry about sounds and manipulating the phonemes, the sounds in words. I hope that's clear. If it's not, we'll talk more about it in class. All right. You looked at those phonemic awareness activities, and I hope that those helped you to see how you can just talk about sounds with kids and manipulate words with their phonemes, their sounds, and not introduce graphemes. This 3-minute video at the bottom of the screen, you can click on that link in the PowerPoint. If you go to that video, you'll hear another person's version of what phonemic awareness is that I think will also help you to better understand the difference between phonics, where there's the relationship between sounds and letters, or phonemes and graphemes, and phonemic awareness, where we're just looking at the phonemes, just looking at the sounds. After you watch that video, come on back to the screencast. Now that you understand what a phoneme is versus a grapheme, so you understand a phoneme is a sound, a grapheme is a letter, the written symbol that represents that sound, we want to think about how many phonemes there actually are in our alphabet. So there are 26 graphemes, 26 letters, but there are 44 phonemes that are represented in the English language, which means that, obviously, some of these graphemes have more than one sound, more than one phoneme that they can make. We need to know what those are. We need to understand what phonemes are in the English language and which phonemes go with which graphemes. And we also need to know how to represent or write a sound, which sounds funny because we're talking about the actual spoken sounds, but we need to know how to write what a sound is so that if we're trying to stretch out the sounds in a word, like you do with a dictionary, you can figure out by the pronunciation key, the way they've written the sounds, how to pronounce a particular word. That's sort of what this is. So as a teacher of phonics, we can represent those 44 phonemes with the graphemes that we have, so the letters and letter combinations. You separate each phoneme, each written explanation or written version of a phoneme with these two brackets right here. I know that's a little bit strange to think about just hearing, but if you go to this video right here, you can see just how phonemes are represented. So in just a moment, I want you to go and watch that video so you can get a better understanding of what I mean when I say, how do we represent phonemes by writing them down? And then here is another file that gives you the 44 phonemes and exactly what, how they are represented and how they are written in between those brackets. You also get examples of words with this document. Look at the document, take a little bit of time to check it out, but I will have copies of this particular PDF for you in class on Monday as well. Pay close attention to short vowels, how they are written. So there's an A in that bracket, but we know it's a short A because it's got this little upside down line right here. Long vowels, like in ache, where the A says its name, that would have a line over the top of it. So when we represent our phonemes, we use little symbols here in between the brackets in order to show that there's a different sound, a different phoneme made there. Go ahead and watch that video and look at that PDF to get a better understanding of representing phonemes. This brings us to activity 2. If you are here, you have already looked at the PDF and the video all about phonemes and how we represent them. Now I want you to answer one more question. This is the last one for today on Moodle. Under activity number 2 for day 3, it says there are 26 graphemes or letters in the English language, but there are 44 phonemes or sounds. How might this cause confusion for students? Why might this make phonemic awareness, students' ability to pull apart words into sounds, critically important to reading success? Go ahead and do that and come back to the screencast. All right, so you've got the content. You know what the alphabetic principle is. You know what phonemic awareness is. You know how to represent phonemes. When we come to class on Monday morning, we're going to think about how to apply this. How do we teach it? What do our lessons look like? But before that class, you should complete all of our readings if you haven't already, engage in this screencast with the activities, and take quiz 2, which is under day 3 on Moodle. It's a much shorter quiz, I promise. I'll see you all on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend.